Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're doing a top 10. The topic of the top 10? Top 10 wrestlers that are going to benefit from Triple H being in control of creative. Now, for this list, we considered where they are now, how they're being portrayed, and where I think they could be portrayed, and how much I think it could help their career and their trajectory. So if somebody's already a main eventer, even if Triple H is going to continue to push them as such, it doesn't really benefit their career. If somebody's on the lower card that gets elevated to a main eventer, or in my opinion could be, it could definitely benefit their career. With all that being said, let's jump in right now. Number 10, Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler to me was a wrestler that was a no-brainer, was going to be a big women's star in WWE. Her NXT run was absolutely fantastic, and a lot of this, you'll see, is going to be based off of the NXT run, off of what they did in NXT, because that's the sample size. We know how Triple H has already used these talents. She gets to the main roster, kind of feels like she's lost in the fold, hasn't felt important since she's been on the main roster. In my opinion, I think Triple H is going to turn that around, make her a big star, make her one of the perennial champions or perennial champion contenders. In my opinion, her upside is so fantastic right now with him being in charge. That's why she's on the list. Our number 9 is someone we've already seen that's benefited from this a bit. That's Karrion Kross. We've seen Karrion Kross just recently come back to WWE. Already was inserted in what would be the main event angle. At the time of this taping, he's only been on one show. Already, in a 5-minute segment, you made him look way better than he did when he was called up the first time. Whether it be the loss to Jeff Hardy on his first night in the company, whether it be the silly demolition type gear that they had him wear, you already made him feel more important. He had elements of his NXT entrance, which is one of the best entrances in wrestling. He had Scarlett Bordeaux there, which is automatically adds to the presentation. She brings a lot to the table. He felt like a killer, no pun intended. He felt like an assassin. He felt like someone that deserved to be in that spotlight, that deserved to be in there with Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, two of the main stars of the company. I think Karrion Kross, this again, much like Shayna Baszler, his potential is going to skyrocket under Triple H. Now, the big knock on him is he's not as flashy in ring, but his gimmick, his promos, his intensity, it's going to carry over. It's going to make him as big as a star as Triple H will let him be. And they've already started off with a bang. Anything got to be better than what he was given with the Gladiator crap and losing to Jeff Hardy first night back. So anything's better than that. They've already done better. It can only get better from here. Our number 8. One half of the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins. Everybody's talking and has been talking about if the Street Profits break up or when the Street Profits break up, how big of a star Montez Ford's going to be. Everybody is discounting Angelo Dawkins. He seems to be in that quote-unquote Marty Jannetty role. Angelo Dawkins himself has a ton of charisma. In the early days of the Street Profits, his charisma was what was carrying the two. And while I don't think his ceiling is quite as high as Montez Ford's could be, I think Angelo Dawkins is a guy that could be a high, mid-card, sometimes main event level guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Somewhere on the level of like a Goldust when he was in WWE, or Razor Ramon, or D'Lo Brown or Ken Shamrock, someone of that level, where even if he is in the main event of a pay-per-view, it doesn't feel like he's out of place. He feels like he belongs there. And to me, I think Dawkins, and the Street Profits are great, don't get me wrong. But I think we've only seen a little fraction of what he could actually do. Him being on his own, I think he's going to have a better trajectory than everybody else thinks he will. I don't know if he's ever going to be a WrestleMania main eventer, but he'll definitely get a chance to be under this regime. Now, number 7. Talking about tag teams, arguably one of the best tag teams in the world, if not the best tag team in the world right now, FTR. And I know, they're not in the WWE right now. I never had the caveat that these people would be in the WWE. Depending on what backstage rumors you hear, there's everything from they're being held back by the Young Bucks to they're frustrated with how they're being portrayed. I don't buy into that. Here is where I think this benefits them. FTR is in AEW right now, as of the time of recording. They've been AEW Tag Champions. They've been IWGP Champions, Ring of Honor Champions, and AAA Champions. They've done everything a tag team could do outside of WWE. Yes, they've also done everything a tag team could do inside of WWE. However, I think that a team like FTR looks at the potential of going back to WWE and making tag team wrestling relevant in WWE as a challenge. Do I think they'll go there? I don't know. It's possible. The one thing that'll definitely benefit them is when it comes time that their contract's up, there's going to be a bidding war. AEW and WWE are going to have to shell out a ton of money. And depending on what they prioritize, AEW seems to give you more freedom. WWE seems to give you a bigger platform. Depending on what they prioritize, could Triple H be the deciding factor? Could the fact that they were booked so great in NXT make them look at it and go, well, and I'm just making up numbers for video's sake, we're getting $5 million from WWE offer, $5 million from AEW. We know where our ceiling is here in AEW. Maybe we go back to WWE. Maybe we put tag team wrestling back on the map in WWE. For that reason, I think that's why they benefit, because of when they come to the table. And a lot of people is going to be that way. There's a lot of people that are going to benefit greatly just from the fact that they can bounce the two companies off each other, and it feels like there's a chance that they may go back to WWE or vice versa. Now, coming from that, number 6, talking about going back, Butch, a.k.a. Pete Dunne. I don't know if you switch him back to Pete Dunne right away. I don't know if you ever switch the name back. And I'm not discrediting what Butch has done or Pete Dunne has done with the Butch character. It is highly entertaining what he's doing. It really is. However, I think Pete Dunne or Butch, and I'm going to use them interchangeably here, is someone that Triple H looks at as a main event guy. He looks at as a main talent. He was one of the big stars, if not the big star, of the NXT UK that Triple H had overseen. And I think, and he brought him into NXT proper, or the NXT main, whatever you want to call it, and made him a star there. Butch, to me, has everything you could ask for. He might not have quite the size, but he has the ring talent, he has the credibility, he has the charisma. I think he could be a big star, and I definitely think that with Triple H at the helm, he's going to have bigger than what he is as being a running partner of Sheamus. I think he'll be bigger. Now, coming from that, our number 5, Much like Shayna Baszler, this character is a woman that was a NXT Women's Champion, and I don't think quite has had her due on the main roster, and that's Asuka. Asuka in NXT and prior to NXT in Japan was an absolute phenomenon. She was amazing. Everything, and she still is, don't get me wrong. Asuka is one of the most talented women wrestlers in the whole world. And she should be in the conversation with Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Charlotte, Bayley. She should be one of those wrestlers that's always there in the conversation for either the Raw or SmackDown's Women's Championship. And she's been a multiple-time champion, don't get me wrong. I just don't ever feel like she's been portrayed on that level, like, let's say, Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch, or even Bianca Belair now. I do think with Triple H in charge, we get to see a little bit more of how she was portrayed in NXT. We get to see a little bit more of Asuka the killer, Asuka the person that everybody was afraid of, the unstoppable machine. And I think it's really going to, again, I keep saying this, I think it's definitely going to benefit her having Triple H in charge of her career. I'm going from now to number 4. Another wrestler that has looked their best in NXT in their WWE run, and that's Shinsuke Nakamura. Don't get me wrong, I do think that Nakamura's had a decent WWE run. It's just that Shinsuke Nakamura is so charismatic, such a great wrestler, such a great talent. I love Shinsuke Nakamura. When I first started really watching New Japan Pro Wrestling on a more regular basis, I had seen before previous generations of New Japan, I had seen tapes, I would get highlights, or I would see, compilation videos of the G1, the best matches of the G1, or Wrestle Kingdom, or whatever the January 4th show would be called, or people's runs, like I would get videos of that. When I started rewatching, watching New Japan more on a more regular basis, Shinsuke was the guy that really drew me in. Shinsuke was my guy on the card. We had guys like Tanahashi was on the rise a little bit before, and even during Okada's rise, there was always Shinsuke Nakamura there. And I think the way he was portrayed in New Japan and in NXT are kind of very similar, that he was a high-level upper card talent. Comes to the main roster, at times he's been portrayed as the goofy gimmick, as the comedy relief. I definitely think that Shinsuke Nakamura is going to benefit from Triple H. I do. I think he's going to have it. He's going to have another long, successful run with either one of the World Championships, because I do think they're going to split them, and there is a lot of rumors swirling around that that's going to happen soon. I think that he's one of the guys that definitely is going to look at it, and there's going to be a huge smile on his face, because he's going to know that this guy knows how to book me, this guy knows how to put me in a positive light. Now, coming from now to our number 3, talking about people that Triple H knows how to put in a positive light, Tommaso Champa. Tommaso Champa is so fantastic in everything he does, whether it be as a heel, whether it be as a face, whether he be a tag team partner, a solo wrestler. He's pretty much a Swiss Army knife of the WWE. You could put him in any role, in any position, and he's going to shine, and he's going to make it look fantastic. I know he's getting a little bit more prominence already. He's already been involved in a U.S. title picture. And that was just coming a couple days ago at the time of this recording. He's got to, quote-unquote, dig into his lineage with Harley Race helping to train him. Again, I love, the only thing that's going to stop Tommaso Ciampa from being a WWE main eventer to being a WrestleMania main eventer is Tommaso Ciampa's injuries. Tommaso's had a lot of injuries and they may catch up with him. I don't know that I hope that they don't. And if they don't, he definitely is going to be a guy that benefits. Now, coming off of that, our number 2, Kevin Owens. And yep, Kevin Owens has been a multiple-time world champion. He's won pretty much every championship you have. However, again, much like I said with Shinsuke Nakamura, I don't think that he's ever been portrayed as the top guy. Whereas under Triple H, we've seen in NXT how he was portrayed there. Kevin Owens is one of my absolute favorite wrestlers in the world, and a lot of these wrestlers are. I really enjoy everyone on this list and their abilities. Kevin is at the top of my list of one of my absolute favorites, and I've been saying it for years and years. I don't know, again, I don't think that Vince McMahon ever looked at him and said, hey, this guy could be my next John Cena, could be my next Steve Austin. But I do think that Triple H looks at him and says, this guy could be my next Steve Austin, my next Randy Orton, whoever you would consider. And I definitely think he's really going to be helped. And it's going to elevate him to where Kevin Owens, if not this year, within the next year and a half, he's going to be in the main event of WrestleMania. Mark my words on that, because Kevin Owens and Triple H together is a formidable pairing. Now, before we get into our number 1, we're going to do something here we call the best of the rest. Basically, people that were considered for the list but didn't quite make it for whatever reason. First up, Ricochet. Ricochet is a guy that's got lost in the mix of people. There's at no point that he feels as special as he did before he came into WWE, or even as special as he did, and I keep saying this like a broken record, in NXT. I think with Triple H at the helm, we are going to see the best of Ricochet. We're going to see the top potential he has and where exactly he could go. And I think that we're going to see more of what we saw on the Indies and what we've seen in NXT and what we've seen in New Japan, on Lucha Underground. They really made Ricochet special. I think Triple H is going to he's going to loosen the leash a bit, let him be more of what he is, and it's just going to do nothing but good for his career. Now, next up on the best of the rest, Brian Cage. Much like I said with FTR, Brian Cage is, when his contract comes up, and I don't know when his contract is up, but I gotta say, and this is no knock on AEW, Brian Cage is one of the wrestlers that going into the AEW had a bigger buzz when the company started than he's had now. He's been used sparingly on the AEW television. His wife has made derogatory comments about AEW. He's not really been used at all since he was kicked out of Team Taz. He's part of a group in Ring of Honor that was managed by Tully Blanchard that got sold to Prince Nana. To me, Brian Cage is someone that if at the end of his contract comes up, he needs to look at the WWE and go, this is a place that I might be able to do a little bit better and might get treated better. And again, I'm not knocking AEW. I'm just saying that Brian Cage felt more special before AEW than he has since AEW. He felt more special in Lucha Underground. He felt more special in Impact Wrestling. He felt more special when we would see him in PWG or in Wrestling Circus and all the indies he wrestled before this. If I were him, I'd consider it WWE, and I would consider it heavily. Now, before we get into our number 1, please smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't, and let's go on to our number 1 person that's going to benefit the most from Triple H being in charge, And that's Johnny Gargano. No wrestler has had better luck and better timing than John Gargano has right now. Maybe Jon Moxley when his contract ran up and AEW was starting. But right now, as the time of recording, Johnny Gargano is a free agent. And no matter where he signs, the fact that Triple H is in charge, that's going to drive his price tag up, and it's going to go crazy. Johnny Gargano, we've already seen that Triple H has no problem making him the pivotal point, the highlight of his show. It could be argued in AEW he would be in a logjam with a lot of guys that do something similar, even though I think if he goes to AEW, his talent is going to stand out there as well, and he's going to be in the top of the company as well. Either place he goes, even if he decides to not go either route, he decides to go to Impact or wrestle for MLW, the main thing is Johnny Gargano, no matter where he goes, he is almost guaranteed to be put in a very high spotlight just because everybody knows what Triple H wants to do with him. We've already seen what he wants to do with him. He wants to make this guy the focal point of the company. Because of that, let's say 2 months ago, when Vince McMahon was in charge, and I'm just making up numbers for the video, I have no clue what the contracts look like. Let's say AEW was offering him $1 million a year, WWE was offering him $1 million a year. Now, we might see where Triple H says, hey, I want you enough that I'm going to up that offer to $1.5 million. And AEW has to either match that or go higher, so they say $2 million. Now you got a bidding war going. Goes back to Triple H, says, hey, they're offering me $2 million. Can you match this? I'll come if you match. And that, not only for Johnny Gargano, but for every wrestler in the world to have that opportunity, to have these two different companies to work off each other, and maybe the differences in the creative aren't as big as they've been. The main knock against WWE has been the creative side of it. So maybe someone that's been under the helm of Triple H previously, they're going to look at WWE now as a more serious option. Just my opinion. And I think Johnny Gargano has hit the lottery, and I think he's going to come out with a massive bag coming out of this. To me, he's the hottest free agent out there. You could say Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, I agree, he's a pretty hot free agent for any company to pick up. But Johnny Gargano, in my opinion, is going to benefit the most. And his life is going to be changed all because of Triple H being in charge. Did you agree with my list? Do you think I left somebody off? Do you think I put someone too low, someone too high? Let me know in the comments. Like and share again. Subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate you watching my video, whether this be your first video or whether you've watched every single video I've ever released. I appreciate you. If you made it to the end, let me know you made it all the way to the end. And let's put Hunter in the comments for Triple H if you made it to the end. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.